I'll call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public forum, is there anybody that has anything to say? Not, I take a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, got a motion on the floor, I need a second. A second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion passed. Okay, discussion regarding department heads. We'll just start down the line and as they are in order. Commissioners. Now go to page 4, elections. Anything in courts? Auditors? Treasurers?
I have a couple of questions on mine. The treasurer's oasis, I didn't have the new figure percentage when I figured it, so I think I need another 550 in there at the .069.
That's .062. Are you looking at the
Oh,
new
is it?
numbers?
.062?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the health insurance, when I take the actuals, I still need another 1,200 more. Because we were a little bit low last year.
I took what the actual is that we're getting charged next year, and I made the adjustments accordingly to everybody's health insurance costs. 'Cause
What percentage did you use?
we have a 7.25.
7.25. So if you take the 899.80 that we use now times the 7.25, I use 7%.
I have the actual numbers.
Okay.
It's 964.62 for single, and I think that's what both you and
We are,
have.
yes, we are.
So that's gonna be times 12 months.
And then you have to add on the dental, the life, the vision, and the HSA, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the new number built in includes that for everyone.
I need to refigure that, I guess.
Lynn, all right?
I'd have to refigure it. Okay.
Page turning. Courthouse.
Do we got any major projects for repairs and maintenance? We need 50,000 in there?
You were talking about doing lighting, windows possibly.
Try it all places.
I think the lighting alone is gonna be a crazy amount.
Okay.
Why is there such a difference in the supplies? 17 was about 8,000, 18 was 33,000, 19 is 5,000.
Depends on what's purchased those years. I know that one year we bought all those air machines and just
Yeah, but that wasn't
different things were
23,000.
done.
Courthouse supplies, that did not include the renovation in the courtroom, did it?
Well, there was a lot of supplies built, or took out of there, yeah, like curtains and all kinds of stuff. I can print you out a detail if you want to look at it.
I was just curious.
Do you feel we can lower that, and still be fine?
There's some of those supplies purchased biannually, if we have a higher amount. Seems like every other year that looks like, 16 we had 27, 17 we had 79, 18 we had 33, 19 was 5,000. Is that a deal where they're purchasing stuff? No?
It's just what happened most years.
Okay.
You wanna leave it alone, or?
Well, if we follow the same track that we're about due to spend a lot more money in this building than we did last year, this year. And Marion says 27,000, 8,000, 33,000, and we're 5,000.
Would there be any of the supplies for like the lighting and stuff taken out of supplies, or would that all be under repairs and maintenance?
Well, that kind of depends, because usually we keep repairs and maintenance to anything that involves labor. So if Dave goes and purchases tile and does it himself, then that would come out of supplies. But if we make Campbell come in and do the lights, then that's gonna come out of repairs or whoever, you know.
Alright, we'll move on. DOE,
I have a couple of questions. I haven't seen my final approved budget.
There is no final approved yet, but right here is what they've received now.
So my two questions are, I had put in for Greg and I and a half-time employee. Did it get left in half-time? At one point, you had cut it down to a quarter time.
I couldn't put it in as I put your request in as halftime, but I did what was currently now
Okay.
as approved, but that's why we're having this meeting, because they need to make those decisions once and for all,
So
because they
that's-
never have.
That's what I want to know, because you did not tell me yes or no whether I could leave in for a half-time or if I had to cut it back to a quarter time. We talked about it, but you didn't say I could or I couldn't.
how do you feel that it's working? I know we had talked about that we would talk about it.
I think December it will be a year. It could be better, but, you know, it's your guys' decision. I think it probably, works a little better for Casey and I than it does for Josh. We've made it work. But there's been times when Casey's taken my phone, I've taken Casey's phone, which that's fine, I don't have a problem doing that. But, I don't know that in December that I think Josh is still gonna try to get a full-time person. And I mean, I have enough work for a half-time person, it's not that, but. All I know is if Josh gets a full-time person, for Casey and I to hire somebody on a half-time basis with no benefits is just about going to be impossible. Nobody wants a part-time job with no benefits.
Chairman?
They're kind of on an on-call basis.
Deb, I don't mean to blindside you,
That's okay.
but the rural addressing, that's still 100% highway department, or is that director of equalization?
Well, I guess in my mind, I figured how things are working out right now, that it was gonna go back to the highway.
See, I don't know if this is right or not, but I'm supporting, more hours for Deb's office and kind of move to a transition of continuing to aid in the rural addressing, but have it provided through the Director of Equalization office. Am I blindsiding you, Deb?
No, I know we've dealt with a ton of 911 addresses since you've come on. I think 1 week, each of us spent probably at least 20 hours doing that.
And the fact is that Penny and I were doing all of it, and you were getting very little, right?
Right.
And there's been a move to kind of shift a little bit that way, based on experience, with Penny being gone. There's enough for Kareem to learn, where she's at now, than to add rural addressing to it. It can be mind-boggling, but, I'd be saying if she wants half-time instead of quarter-time, I would ask the commission to provide that to her with the intent that you're gonna be getting more heat on it, so.
I guess in my mind, the reason why we even thought of doing it, I guess for me, is because basically there was nobody at the highway department. So it had to be done somewhere, and Devin said she would be doing it. So I guess that's why when we hired a full-time secretary, in my eyes, that would have been part of it. I don't know what the rest of the commission feel, it's just me, but, I mean, that's how I looked at it. Somebody had to do it, but there was nobody there really at the time.
And just a comment that, when I first came in, there was requests for addresses, from November of the following year, which is a bad, it looks bad to the government entity that provides that. So I did get the addresses they need, but it was 6 months in advance of their request.
Behind.
Huh?
Behind their request.
Behind,
Yeah.
yep. I provided 6 months in advance of the request, so.
Yeah, because I know I had people call when Gary had been hired but hadn't started yet, and I just said, if this isn't like an emergency and you can hold off, because now we were getting into areas where, it's just more complicated than you know. Like you have to measure from one point to another to come up with a number, and the approaches have to be so far apart, and so that's what Gary and I worked together on, is using my mapping system to measure distances for him to know. So it's, it's not just, looking at the map and deciding, well, this is gonna be your address. There's certain rules that you have to follow, and then I don't know that anybody has been in touch with MSAG since anyway.
I don't think so either.
And MSAG is like a central reporting, where new addresses are supposed to be called in, and that follows something with the 911 process, correct?
Yep. So what Deb is saying that, Ryan Reese, I don't know, should name names in a meeting like this, but, wanted an address, on 12th Street and north there. Deb provided it for him, and, if it doesn't get entered into MSAG, it did no good other than his satisfaction in knowing that my house's address is this. If a 911 call would come from that house, if nobody entered in the system, the dispatch center isn't gonna know where to go. It's pretty critical stuff, so.
He was getting ready to build a house, and Mobridge didn't want to give him an address. He had to have an address to get utilities there, electric and stuff like that. So it was like, as near as I could, we figured it out. I think we got a pretty good address for him, but, there was a ton of rules that Greg and I didn't know, and Kenny wasn't here to ask, and Gary wasn't here to ask. I think we figured it out, and I called Brooks Johnson. He didn't want to do I called him and told him what we had for an address so he could get it into his system. But that's the kind of things we ran up against.
Are both of you using Beacon for that, or
We
what
use,
program are you using?
right now I'm using Agridata for that, to do those measurements.
I use distance measuring device. I don't use the
That's
computer.
easy for me.
It's say for instance, the addressing system is set up with 105.7 feet per lot. And that makes available 100 lots. I think it's 100 lots. If I had the sheet, I could show you.
Yeah,
But you go from center of section line and you physically drive with the distance measuring device and where the access approach is centered on. Now you know what lot number it is based on the distance, and you provide the information. The computer thing, which I don't really care for, is that if there's a road that's diagonal, obviously a diagonal portion is longer than a straight square knot portion, the geometry of it. So when you do it on the computer isn't going to recognize that, well, I'm moving farther now because I'm diagonal. So I do a lot of the distance measuring device stuff where I can pinpoint lot locations. So
they allow for so many addresses in a certain distance, and so you have to know what distance you're at to get that right. You know, and you have to, in Woodbridge, for example, the avenues run north and south, and the streets run east and west. And on the avenues, the even numbers are on the right side, the odd numbers are on the left side, on the streets. You know, so you have to know that stuff too. What, if you give them an odd numbered address, if you give them an even numbered address. You know, the easiest part of it is you start with whatever street, so that's like 134, and then you have to assign a house number. So it could be 13478 or 13477. So it's, you know, it's not just say, you're the only house in this mile, so we're just gonna give you this number.
New Everett's 5th edition down there, the new road. The plots are laid out, and I don't remember if I did it, but when the plot comes in for approval, it's at that time where the addresses are assigned to make us look really good, that we've done our duties. I noticed when I came back that there was a question, the realtor is calling and wanting an address for this lot because it's being listed as for sale. And they wanted on the ad that 507 Riverview Court, you know, which technically is simple if there's planning and coordination with the plot development. So in lieu of the numbers being laid out, and like I said, I can't remember if I did it or if Penny did it, there was 2 addresses applied to each lot. With in mind, it's a security that there's a chance this lot will never subdivide. I guess you can't say there's not a chance, anything can happen. So we use one of the addresses and the other one's abandoned. When I went on site, a couple, I think 2 houses maybe, had the wrong address. Their address made confusing the address that we were applying for the house that was being listed. So now our system wasn't broke, somebody got the wrong information, and now it's a letter from the highway department or 911 addressing that your address is this, it will be changed to this to get back onto the coordination of the original layout.
It goes on and on. Right now, there's a deal at Sarah Sue, which is out by Spring Lake. And the road out there is platted as East Ridge Road. But all their addresses have been assigned to them, there's only like 3 out there, as Sarah Sue Place, I think. Something Sarah Sue Place. Well, then Gary got to digging and found an agreement where It was going to be called Sarasu Place instead of East Ridge Road. But, and that agreement was with the developer, who was Justin Bieber. But that agreement never came back signed by Justin Bieber. So that's what we're working on now, so we can give actual addresses, you know. By the plot, it should be East Ridge Road. By their agreement, it should be Sarasu Place.
Okay, but we're
It
getting
just
off,
goes on and
we're
on.
getting off of what we're trying to
Yeah.
decide here is whose responsibility is it? And who's gonna need the extra manpower to do this?
That's where I'm requesting, Kevin, that I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing in coordination with Deb. And, if I increase the workload, she's gonna need more staff. That's my approach.
And I'm asking you to leave my half-time person in place in case, instead of cutting it to a quarter time. I'm asking, I'm not necessarily asking to hire somebody right now, I'm asking to have the money available if we decide that I should. Have the money budgeted for.
Becky, if I may, everybody pays a 911 surcharge. Is there a budget for 911?
All of the 911 surcharge funds now go to the city. All of them. We get them here and then I just write a check to them.
Ooh. And when we put a 911 sign in or something like that, then we go back to them to ask to fund it, or it's a highway department expense? Ooh. You guys catching that?
I guess, Gary, are you totally, I mean, this is all pertaining to Deb right here, you don't think that there's enough, that there's too much work down at the highway department that they can't do the 911?
The administrative side. Staff, rainy days, it's a perfect place to put them. It's too wet to do anything else. If we're gonna put up a 911 sign or something, that's when it's done. But I'm thinking, that scares that. The expenses aren't that much in the end of the year. I would project $5,000 or $6,000 in labor and equipment. But the fact remains that all of those surcharge tax monies that are coming to the county and getting transferred back to the 911 system, that leaves us out in the cold for any kind of maintenance. And
Why can't he get reimbursed through the 911?
Something that would have to be looked into, I suppose. See, we used to do all the 911 books here, but the state said that we were the only county doing that, and that the 911 center should be the one in charge of the bills and the 911 funding. So
So
then,
he just.
we can't use that money for anything, so now we have to send it, we just send it to them. They changed the law so we couldn't use any of it. So the only thing we can do is just send it over to the 911 center.
How come they're not putting up the signs?
I don't know.
we've asked the city of Mortgage to put 911 signs up in their jurisdictional boundaries. The same applies to any organized municipalities in the county, that our department will not place 911 signs off in your jurisdiction. So they have an opportunity to use those funds when they expense it with 911 sign questions.
So
Yep.
that grant that we got to replace all the signs out there, does that come from 911?
No, that's a highway signing, I haven't had enough, there's something just came in to hire a consultant for the signing, and the conditions are gravel roads only, and that's for 2021. But I think there's some kind of thing coming that I'm not aware of that provides another project for signing.
There's something that the city in the past did here, that was with the DOT too, and it
Yeah,
was to
and
buy
this
like
is through,
new stop signs and everything, yeah.
and I thought I saw 100% funded by outside sources.
Yeah,
Okay, so I guess my question to you, Deb, if you had a half-time employee, would that be suffice?
I would sure be happy to start with that.
A half-time employee with no benefits?
That, I don't know that I can hire that. I know that Casey has put in a half-time person too. So if we each had a half-time person,
Well,
I
that's
think.
what I'm
we
saying,
could-
it's a lot cheaper if we have 2 half-time employees
Well, we would certainly try to hire that way, Kevin.
without benefits
Right.
than 1 full-time with benefits, and then
I-
having to
I know.
argue which one, where
Yes,
that,
sir. I know.
where that person's gonna be
I
at.
have no, problem trying to hire half-time without benefits. I would certainly be willing to try it. I'm predicting that my chances would be pretty slim. But like I said,
My
I'm not
suggestion
opposed
would
to
be to try it,
trying
and we'll see how it goes from there.
But here's my other problem with that, is if I go to a halftime person, then either Josh has to have more hours for Chelsea, or Casey has to have more hours for Chelsea, because I certainly don't want
Oh.
to cheat Chelsea out of her job.
We're talking about DOE right now, because we got
Right.
some other things that we're gonna talk to some other departments about doing.
Yeah.
So,
But
Right
remember
now,
that
I
ties,
understand, but right now, we're dealing with your department.
but I'm not going to cheat Chelsea out of a job, and Chelsea is tied together to all three of us. So I can't talk about just my department without affecting her either, or Josh or Casey.
Well, then, do we wanna wait and see what we're gonna do with the other departments, or are we gonna just keep talking about this?
No, but I just wanna make one statement to Deb, that you really didn't say that it's not working. You said it could be better, but you didn't say it's not.
Correct.
So,
And that's why I said, I just want the money there, I'm not saying I need to hire someone right now. But if I do keep getting more 911 stuff, maybe it'll come to that. At this point, I mean, you know, there's a fine line between needing another person, or I put in a request where Greg and I are willing to, you know, work 9 or 10 hours a day just for comp time. There's a fine line between having to pay overtime or comp time and hiring another person with full benefits. So at this point, you don't want Greg and I to work any overtime for comp either, so everything has to be juggled to fit. We certainly have enough work that Greg and I could easily work 9 or 10 hours a day. And I remember that I have Chelsea 10 hours a week. If nobody else needs her. And there's comes times when Casey's gone and needs her there, or Josh needs her, you know, we've worked it out. I'm not saying it's impossible.
So Becky,
I'm
what
just
do you
saying
got
I'd like
built
to-
in here right now?
Just the quarter. And the approved portion.
now what Davis and Jim feel?
Casey, are you gonna have the same
What you have, and she
problem
didn't
with
use it.
yours? You put in a half too,
It's
correct?
always there in case something does happen.
It appears to me, of course, this, you gotta look at the deal, the whole picture. It appears to me like the staff in the highway department has got quite a lot of book work to do, or whatever, however you wanna explain it, to where if they could transfer some of that 911 to Deb's office, I think it would, at least in the near future, for the,
I guess I'm looking at the overall picture of it. Yeah, is there a lot to do right now? Probably, I mean, wouldn't know why there's not, there really hasn't been nobody there basically for quite a while. And all the catch-up you gotta do, but when everything settles back down, that's what I'm getting at.
Scott, if I may, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but 911 funds come about by virtue of surcharge tax dollars that are paid to the county. You're working on an outside investment revenue source. You follow me? So instead of giving, if you have no ability to tap into those funds could be transferred. And we did it when I was there last time, that if I spent a day and a half dealing with a developer on coordinating address system, we turned time into 911 and it was paid for out of 911. So if it's an issue of funding, you're just tapping into a funding source that's there. Follow me?
We'd have to designate all the time that that person uses for nothing but 911.
They would have to, on some kind of a
Keep track of
time
them.
card,
And I don't foresee that happening, honestly.
That's Becky.
That would be, have to be something that the 911 board would approve, because the law changed a lot since we were doing that way back then, on what we could use those funds for. That's why all the counties just send them to the PSAPs now. But Davis is on that board, I don't know if it's something that could be put on their next agenda, they meet twice a year, maybe July and January, but it's not gonna help us now.
That's why I asked you guys and you, I mean, you gotta look at the overall picture of it, I mean, yeah, is there things crazy right now, especially the highway department? Yeah. But when everything settles back down, what are we gonna, you know, if there's, all of a sudden, this office over here has got too much help and they're just sitting around, I'm just speculating. So that's why I'm looking at it. Do we need to do this or not? Do we need a quarter person here or a half?
I don't know, if it's, to me, if it's possible, it would make sense that we could, if we've got the 911 tax out there, if we could tap into that somehow, or get those guys to agree to pay that. That would make more sense than anything to me. Because we're already taxing the public on that right now. So why not use those funds to take care of the paperwork and the bookwork that comes along with it? I don't know how you go about that when we ship the dollars to the cities.
Because when we did this for Deb's office, Casey's office and Josh, I mean, we did it so that it would look a little better to hire somebody with the benefits, and I think Deb was probably 100% right. If you think you're gonna hire somebody for half and half, be a full-time position with no benefits, I would say, good luck. It ain't gonna happen.
I was thinking it wouldn't necessarily be the same person.
That's what I understood you to say, Kevin, that Casey and I, if we went to halftime, we would each hire a different person, halftime, no benefits, correct?
Right.
For each office. That's what I assumed you meant. And I agree with Scott, I just think, it might happen, but I just think it would be very difficult.
Nyla, you advertised for just a part-time person
I did.
too awful long ago. Do you remember how much?
I didn't get a lot of applications.
That's not surprising.
But our dilemma right now is, what do you guys wanna do? What Deb's asking for is half instead of a quarter.
Now, keep in mind that I'm not saying come January 1st, I'm automatically gonna hire a halftime person. I just want the money available. I wouldn't hire unless I came in here and we discussed it and I got approval from you to hire a half-time person. Keep that in mind. I'm not looking to just automatically think that come January, I'm gonna get a half-time person.
But that's what I'm getting at is then we need the changes if that's what we choose to do.
Right, exactly.
I would say right now, let's leave it at a quarter until we talk to these other departments to figure out what we're gonna do there. It's put in right now as a quarter. Let's leave it there right now and move on to these other departments and see. We've got some questions for these other departments too.
I guess we can move on then.
We could always
No, we
come,
can't, I have another,
we can always come back to that.
Yeah, you can go back to it, but you have to make sure you do that.
but I have one more question.
Oh,
On the, and that's fine with me if you wanna go through the other ones too. On my total, DOE furniture and equipment, when I discussed that with you, I put $5,000 in there in case we needed new equipment. Is that still there? Okay, and I, just to let you know, that we got informed that our Word is out of date and will not be supported from Ultra after, January 1st. So I called Ultra to set up, to get my computers updated. I have 2 computers that are too old. They will not update them. So come January 1st, I'm going to need 2 computers. And I think the 5,000 will cover it. I got an estimate. So I need that to be out there for that purpose.
okay. All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Rex or deeds?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. May I ask my question?
What's your question?
On the provisional budget that was published in the paper, why are these totals different in this paper you're going through today than what's on the provisional budget?
Because we published the provisional budget as it was at that time, we can make any changes to the budget until we adopt the annual budget, which is September 24th. It just needs to be listed in the papers what the changes were.
So where did these changes come about?
Well, some was
For health insurance and requests that were made by the board. That's why we're having this meeting, so they can make their final decisions, so that it can be input into the provisional budget and the changes be put in the paper at that meeting.
Okay, the request by the board was made after the provisional budget was in the paper?
Anybody can request to put something. Josh asked me to change his. That's why this isn't a formal hearing. This is just going through them again to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody has what they want.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel the same way as Deb. I don't have high hopes for hiring a part-time with no benefits. I think that's hard to find, but I would like somebody 20 hours a week. I think the 3 of us have worked very well together. I think Chelsea has done a fantastic job. So it's not that it's not working, but the work is definitely there. And when I was full-time for Micah and Micah was full-time for Sue, as far as I know, there was no problem with that. I'm not asking for full-time. I'm asking for half-time.
Well, and that's what, then we'll just go back to you when we talk with Josh and.
Yep.
Is that fair?
Yes,
You got anything else to?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Somebody let me know when you're ready to talk to Josh. Thank you.
Debt service officer.
Next question on the register deed. So in 30, you have figured in that budget, what you think? Yep, that's it, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so you guys officially tell me to make these employee changes I have, approved I have that.
Debt service officer. And then fur animal.
It's set by the state.
Josh. say, Josh?
So what I have built in there is the 2 deputies, Josh, half-time for the secretary, and then 1 part-time employee. That's what currently we have right now. But you're requesting different, and I think they have some other ideas, and so.
So you have 2 deputies,
Josh, 2 full-time deputies, 1 part-time deputy, and a half-time secretary.
I guess we need to, I'll jump to another line item quick. I had to ask for additional, or a different request. Kevin and we talked about that, on the major equipment and auto. The 61 would cover the equipment and stuff with the estimates that came in with equipment and vehicle. So that's why that number changed. And I just wanted to make sure that there was enough dollars there to cover it for the vehicle request. Because I think we have to, because I asked for 2 and 1 take, so the 53,000 didn't do it. So I wanted to make sure that it was covered and the equipment's covered. So that's why that increase from 53 to that 61.
right now we're at 61 on this new one.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that everybody understood why that changed. Okay?
I guess my question is Justin gonna continue driving another vehicle back and forth to work every day?
Well,
Which gets me back to the resolution.
and that resolution was written, off of a number that you gave me originally. If I'm gonna utilize them for any purposes, and also the state's attorney said that. So that's why that was put into that resolution like that. That's what the request was. That's how I put it into the request, and numbers changed. So, along with the increase that you guys gave or voted on or decided to give for January, I had to figure that in also with that resolution. But anyway, that's where that came from. My new person starts on Monday, so obviously, once I get that full-time person back into rotation, that's gonna change things. My conversation with Commissioner Schwalmer this morning, it's been emergent only, that I've been utilizing him, but he's had to take that vehicle home because I've had him on call for certain things. He's had to run out to the hospital for me, with mental illness stuff, where I couldn't get over there. He helped out with a wreck out on Highway 12. We had to divert traffic, and it took every one of us to do that day, just on the location where it was at. So that's where I utilize my people. My part-time person that I utilize the most, it's gonna be weekends, right, because he has a full-time job, works up at the school. So, that's pretty much controls where I can use that individual. It's gonna be a weekend only. So, if I need to go someplace for a meeting, Travis is off, this is how it's been. I've had him cover at least emergency calls till I got back. Like I said, it's been emergent purposes, so, but he still needs a vehicle to respond to things. I can't have the vehicle over here and then, so, with that said, the new employee starts Monday, so yes, that would change again.
Does that answer your question?
Well, according to your new resolution here, you got yourself, chief deputy, sergeant deputy, and a part-time deputy, and a deputy administration. Why do you feel you really need a chief deputy?
I guess it's just what was hired out at the time when I did it. It was a chief deputy jail administrator, with most of his duties being the jail administrator.
I
And like
took
I
it
said,
as it was just a jail administrator. I didn't take it that when it was hired out, that it was a chief deputy / jail administrator. That was my understanding, is it was just a jail administrator.
Okay?
And once we get down to the jail part of it, we got some other possibilities. I honestly, in my mind, I think Justin is gonna be busy enough if we change this around that he won't have time to be a chief deputy also. Because I think he's gonna have to pull some shifts in the jail. We gotta get a handle
Well,
on,
he's already,
we gotta get a handle on some of this budget, otherwise we're gonna be so broke here in a couple of years that it's gonna be just astronomical.
Well, is there, you seeing anything in Josh's? I know you got questions for Justin, but, so we can try to move on from here, and then if we have to jump back, because I know it's gonna, which you probably, what you just said, is gonna pertain to both of them.
Yeah, when I called Josh this morning to visit with him a little bit, talking more about the jail. But he has asked about looking into a full-time secretary. And my suggestion was, we need to get our jail expenses down and under control. Wondering if there was a chance, not knowing anything as far as scheduling times or anything like that, just looking online, seeing how a schedule would look for 12-hour shifts. Everything I found, and there's like 3 or 4 different schedules out there, everything I found was basically you need 4 teams to cover a 12-hour shift. So basing it on that, if we have 3 people on a shift that he was talking about, we would need 12 people to carry that out. So when I called Josh this morning wondering if that was a possibility to consider that, because if we were to do that, going into the jail side of it, and this to me would affect the sheriffs also, but if we were to do that and go down to, instead of 10 correctional officers, go down to 8 full-time correctional officers, and basically just have 4 jail sergeants. So you'd have 4 captains or 4 people that would be the leading of each one of those teams. And then you'd have your jail chief deputy or jail administrator. So that would end up being basically 13 staff. So you got 12 people that run the jail. He would be the full-time administrator. And then he would also be the person that's gonna have to step in and fill in when sickness or different things like that, for the shift changes or different things like that. If you did that, if we switched that up like that, what we come up with, it looks like it basically cuts about $269,000 out of that budget. If we can operate it that way. it gives you basically end up having, with that idea, you have 4 full teams of 3 people that are operating, and you have your jail administrator that's basically overseeing and filling those positions when there, excuse me, when there's a vacancy or whatever. When I called you this morning, I was looking at that whole idea and that concept with the thought process that I have no idea what type of record keeping is required in there. And you keep telling us you need more help in the record side of it. I would have a lot better feelings of supporting a full-time secretary in your position if we can get some of these other costs down on the sheriff's side. But we're just, the budget on the jail and stuff has gone, well, from 2016, we're at 594,000. Now this current year budget, we're looking potentially at 1.26 million. So we've just got to try to, I feel like we've got to control and knock some of these costs down. Whether it's through a management process of getting a better schedule set up, whether it's, you know, trying to arrange some of these things that way, I don't know, but those are the numbers I'm looking at as far as the budget. It's gotten out of hand. So I feel like that's why I wanted to talk to you this morning a little bit, see if you had put out a deal back in October where you showed the possibility of going to 10 full-time and 5 part-time. And at that point in time, you thought that the budget would be around that 813,000, I don't remember the number exactly, but my feeling, going back to what everybody's saying as far as the part-time versus the full-time, it's probably easier to hire a full-time person with benefits than it is to hire a part-time. So if it would be possible, that's what I would like to see us look at, is the possibility of looking at that setup to where we could try to get our expenses down. I mean, if we can cut almost $70,000 out of the budget by doing that, that would go, that would be dollars that would be a whole lot easier put towards a full-time secretary.
So you're looking at going from, pardon me, I'm not doing the best, but you're looking at going from 13 to 12?
It actually ends up being 15 down to 13 with you.
Okay.
Yeah, because you'd have 8 full-time correctional officers, 4 jail sergeants, and then yourself.
Okay.
And
I'm
then,
running, I got 4 shifts in the 12-hour shifts now. But yes, that would, you know, it would be possible to run it that way yet. But with sick leave and vacation, it's gonna be, you know, it'd be a little tight with everybody wanting to take time off sometimes. Because even if there's more than one, I'm not gonna be able to cover 2 shifts in one day. So there would be overtime, obviously, but
yeah,
it may be feasible yet. I know getting there, I have probably 3 of them that are looking to go out the door. I got 1 for sure right now, and 2 more following, from what I hear. And I have no potential candidates to put into them spots right now anyway, as far as that's go.
One moved to Pure already and 2 moved to Team already. They're still working here. They're just doing the drive.
But I mean, you think that scenario can work?
Honestly, it's probably worth trying, I guess. I don't know.
well, like I said, the only reason why I brought that up is there was 3 different deals that I found online, 3 different schedule formats, and every one of them say that you need 4 teams
Yeah, you got
to cover that.
2 on the days and 2 on the nights.
And then they rotate in and out. And that, according to everything I read, that's what covers, and all of those 12-hour deals, they basically say this is recommended for jails and for sheriff's departments. But it was one of those things where I thought, well, if this is an option that maybe we can look at or consider, or we can cut some expenses out of there. I mean, they're covering vacation, they're covering sick time and everything with that combination with the other people they're picking up on those other sides, but I just feel like we gotta start controlling some of this, because our budget stuff has just gotten, we've just gotten wild. And I know part of it was that whole thing where we added the 5 staffing, that's a huge deal. But I think we gotta try to look outside the box here and see if we can't get this thing kinda controlled a little bit better.
I think you're, and I misunderstood you this morning. I thought it was 12 straight across the board, but when you say the 13th being the jail administrator, that makes a difference also, Mr. Slummer. So I guess, you know, I don't have a problem with trying it. You know, it's a new budget year. I guess it's not, you know, obviously we'll, if any concerns, we'll obviously address the board. But I don't have a problem with that, trying it. I just want the board to be open-minded with me on this also, because, you know, I do have one part-time person right now that's actually filling in for the one that I talked with you about this morning that's gone for like all of September for guards. So, I mean, we run into stuff like that, but we've dealt with that before, so no big deal.
And I'm not saying, I think you're going to have part-time correctional officers to fill in on certain deals, like you were saying, you got a sick deal or whatever, you're gonna have to have some place to fill in there.
Right.
But
Vacation stuff we can kind of plan for.
Right.
Sick, you can't. I mean, we've had, I've had to work over there, so, because 2 of them call, you know, just to stay with our minimum, to make it work. It's 2 of them call in sick and they're out 2 or 3 days.
And I wanna make a correction here too. I mean, I misstated, I said 594,016, it was actually 852. I was looking at the personnel services and I took that number and went across down to our, so it's 850. We've gone from 852,000 in 2016 to 1.26 million in 2020.
Right.
So if we could knock a couple $100,000 out of this, it would sure make it look a whole lot more advisable, and I think it would be definitely worth trying if we are willing to try to look at that.
Okay. I'm not opposed to trying it. I just want the board to be optimistic with me also, and just work on me if there's any issues that come up. And obviously, I'll bring them back to the board or Justin out, but I don't have a problem with trying it.
Well, then we should
And we should be able to, appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Well, I apologize, I said I should have tried getting hold of you before this morning, but it was.
Oh, we get busy, so I understand.
So if I have this figured right in the jail salary side of it, and I'm gonna have to ask Becky to correct everything here probably, but the actual salary instead of the 664 would be 444,105.
Yes,
Are you counting the 2 part-time nurses as well?
You know what, no, we did not. We did not, that's got added in there. So that was just the salary of those 13 that we calculated in there.
So you have a part-time correction officer, and then you've got 2 nurses that work part-time.
And they,
So-
you know, the average is maybe 10 hours every 2 weeks, give or take. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think we've got both of the nurses built in here at 560 hours for the whole year each,
Yeah, all right.
which is a half-time employee total.
Yep.
And then I think 1,040 for yearly.
Okay.
But that's the only part-time I have built in, there's no other part-time built in.
Right.
So,
So then we should just have that recalculated. Looks like on the health insurance side of things, that would save about roughly $50,000. So,
Which that alone would pay for your full-time secretary instead of after.
right. Then, I mean, that's coming out of the sheriff's side, but I mean, that's a different.
So then Josh, then let's get back to that part again, then the secretary.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanna do, is you would just as soon see full-time?
Yes.
You're gonna affect all of us,
I
aren't you?
know, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I just had that week.
He already called Clint to try to get me stuff today, and Clint's in some faults. Gotta deal with it, unfortunately.
So if that's the case, I don't have a problem of you having a full-time secretary and 2 deputies with Justin as administrator only.
Now we come back to Casey and I.
Not necessarily, we haven't decided this yet.
Yeah, I think the whole board needs to be in on this conversation and have a final decision made before this meeting's over.
There's one.
Josh, something was on your mind right now.
I got all kinds of things, but, you know, it's very beneficial to have that extra help there. The big thing of it is if I have to be gone, he answers what, you know, most of it's, you know, over phone calls, would you agree?
Most of them.
He's got a lot of experience behind him administratively. It's nice to have someone there that can make those decisions if I'm not here. He runs them by me most of, I mean, if I can be reached by phone, which most of the time I can be. So, I hate to see that go away and not have that able to be used if I need it. Like I said, it's emergent things. I understand what you're saying, Kevin, I'm not disagreeing with you. But I just want you to understand the emergent part of me having that ability. You know, I utilized myself, the new person would have been here, I would have called that person out too. I mean, everybody would have been out there at that wreck.
And on a normal day, if I'm driving myself and the vehicle's here, it's something I would go help with if you need help. If you tell me. Although I may be working illegally there, you know, but
And if
I'm, you know,
quit using that word.
I'm
Yeah. But I
That's
really
what it
do.
is. According to the resolution, he is.
home illegally.
But I guess, you know,
I'm just trying to, like Mary was saying, try to get a handle on some of this budget stuff. And even just
I move
driving,
it down to, can I move that down there and, I mean,
even just driving the car, he's putting on as many miles on the Tahoe as you're putting on your car
And when-
every month.
And when his new gal gets started and she's back to knowing the county and is in there doing her thing, I'm positive it'll go back to me driving on my own again. And I won't be using the Tahoe unless I'm over here, obviously.
correct.
But for right now, it was just because he was short for a little while.
So I guess, you know, I don't have a problem in, I mean, I put him in there because of the 25%. And that was a number that Commissioner Holgard came up with. I mean, that,
And that's
I could move him down to the jail. I mean, like I said, those emergent situations where I would need him out there, he's still law enforcement, he can do, I mean, if I need him to arrest, make an arrest, effect an arrest on somebody, he can do that. He's backup if I need it. We get a bad call and Travis is gone. I've called him out to back me up on calls. Some of the stuff isn't real nice that we go to sometimes. And I know you guys know that. But, so I just hope you guys can understand that. Because that's exactly what I'm utilizing that spot for. And we did take it away, and he was driving back and forth. When I got short, I was happy, yes, I was. But it helped me out immensely. The transporting's been, it hasn't been fun either. Makes for very, very long days. 24, 26 hours being up a guy, and I mean, truckers get rode up for not taking their brakes. That don't fall in place for us. We can't just stop and not take a call, and the clock stops. So, but I just ask the commission to please consider that, because it is nice to be able to use them if I have to. And like I said, this was emergent in my book, that's why I utilized them. So, and it helped out.
Yes, Linda.
My question would be, if Josh is asking for him to be chief deputy jail administrator, is there a dollar amount that we're looking at difference in that, or is it just the title that he can help out the sheriff's department as a deputy?
Yes, Josh.
That's, just to answer that question, that he's already getting a set salary, which was figured on that. So no, there's no increase with it besides the increase that the county gave for the new year.
It just determines what department his wage is taken out of for the specific hours he's working for the sheriff.
So if it's not making a change to the budget, and it helps out the sheriff's department, I mean, the budget as far as some comes from the sheriff and some comes from the jail, but I mean, it's not changing the total number for the budget. I guess my question is, well, why wouldn't you allow Josh to have him as a deputy if he needs him? I mean, it's not gonna cost the county any money because he's already being paid as a county employee.
Well, he could be on a shift over at the jail too.
Yes.
And then I wouldn't be able to utilize them either, so, but, and that's happened, because he's had to cover the jail, so, just, I guess I just want the board to consider that, because, I mean, that is important that I have that extra help there, if I need it. And I've had to use it, so. Thank goodness it's not a lot. I know it came up because he was under the jail. If he's utilizing, we should move those numbers around, and that's where that 25% came up. That's why I put it in that new resolution, to make sure that we are doing stuff right, according to Commissioner Holder.
Jimmy Davis, what are you guys thinking of this?
What's he do if he gets into a tight spot? You don't have him. What do you do? You got nobody to back you up.
But I mean, I'm just saying this, but I mean, I guess it was, like he said the other day, he needed everybody, so I guess you never know which situation. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he could probably have 10 guys in it, and it wouldn't have mattered. I'm just saying that.
I'm not, the whole issue here is with the vehicle, and that's gonna almost stop or cease. The only time that he's gonna be utilized that, if I use him in an emergency situation like that, or if he's got it covered. And the person that's coming on is gonna require some training, but you know, she's already got some experience under her belt, so she's coming from a pure police department, so, I'm just asking that, don't take that option away from me, because you're tying my hands, and I'm not saying that I'm not at all gonna abuse it. I don't think I have abused it. We took the vehicle away, it was temporary, temporarily it was given back to him because he was helping me out. And he did. We've had a lot of mental illness committals. I couldn't get over there for it. He goes, I call him, he went out there for me. Took care of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that transpires when those are kicking off. Some of it's over the phone. Just if I'm gone. I'm not gone that often. You can ask him. He chews me out all the time because I'm not gone. And I need to take time off, and he said, well, yeah. But just don't, I just ask that you don't tie my hands, please. Don't, because if you do that and I can't utilize them at all, then, you know, it really puts a crunch on things. As far as the resolution, Kevin, we can move him back down there, just don't tie, like I said, don't, into the jail, just don't tie my hands on how I can use him. I mean, he still has arrest powers. He takes care of things with, you know, within the jail. Not that any of us can't. He handles it. If there's an assault or anything, he investigates it. So, the charge comes from him. You know, it's, no one else in the jail has that authority, so, that helps out.
Yes, sir.
So based on the resolution you've got right now, you've got him listed as basically 520 hours.
Sheriff's office.
For the sheriff's department.
Correct.
So basically out of his $42,000 plus salary, a fourth of that would come out of the sheriff's department, and then the balance would come out of the jail department.
And that's why I did that, you know, to make it legal,
Right, okay.
so to speak.
Next question
According
then
to
I
the state
would
attorney.
have to you then, Sheriff, is, do you feel that looking at this resolution, the way we've looked at it going to 4 sergeants and 8 correctional officers, would that be better than your resolution or the potential deal that you put out in November of 18 where you were looking at going down to 10 employees and 5 part-time?
Yes, I would make those changes to that resolution. I mean, that would help me out way better what we just discussed than that previous plan.
Because the original that
It's
one you
very,
put out in October, in 18 was basically you were looking at about an $800,000 to $830,000 budget, doing it that way. I mean, me looking at the number, I'd rather go to the $830,000 budget. But, I mean, it's gotta work for everybody.
right, and where we're gonna run into issues, Mr. Schwalmer, and I think you would agree, you know, and we were doing that when we were trying to crunch numbers, we were trying to adjust things to try and make it more comfortable, the budget, and especially on the operations side. But it's gonna be like I said, it's gonna be very difficult to find part-time employees over there because it's not constant work. Especially over there, they don't want, most of them have full-time jobs, so to, need one during the week is gonna be very difficult. That's when most of them are working. So I think that other plan with the 13 is way more feasible, and the resolution would have to reflect that, which can be changed.
And you're talking about the 12, and then
Correct.
there's 13.
Correct.
Well, the rest of the commissioners in agreement with this?
I just wonder if going to Sheriff 13 is gonna spread them too thin. Instead of maybe like going just down to 14. By the time we figure sick leave and and vacation and training.
I don't know, like I say, every one of those deals, I'm not saying that's a perfect scenario. Every one of those schedules that show up, they show that you should be able to get by with 4 teams. And with this deal, we've actually got 4 teams and 1 extra administrator. I feel that if Justin fills in on some of those spots, that it should be able to cover that.
As he does now. He'll hold some of them spots.
And may have to do a little more. I mean, it's one of those things that, but I think everybody in here will agree that our budget has just gotten out of hand on this.
Davis, how do you feel?
No, I think we should try that 13.
Well, then, should we make them changes then, Josh? And then is that what we wanna do, then go to a full-time secretary position, is that?
Yes.
Is that what we're kind of agreeing on then?
But, I mean, like I said, I don't know what the paperwork is in there.
There's a lot, it's very, it's,
If that's the case and that's where it's needed, I would rather see us do that. On the sheriff's side.
just with mail and correspondence with civil process, there's all the calls that come in. Chelsea does a lot of that. I do also, when she doesn't have the answer, but a lot of it's, record keeping and looking stuff up. But that's just the other side of it. Just people that, if I have to leave, if I take calls and leave the office and someone's there also, people aren't, and people have been, the public's been really good. They call my phone, and a lot of people have it. And, it's, would like to be in there all the time, but it's just not feasible. There's a lot of times I'm gone all day on transport because I have to do it. No one else is available to do it. So. I guess with those changes, I'll work with Becky to make sure that the numbers are correct. And then, the only other thing that I have for you guys, if we're gonna, the pickup situation, Silverado, if we, I don't have anything built in for anything for changing that out. If we're gonna rotate that vehicle out, the pickup, the damaged one that got held out. So we kinda need to discuss that a little bit today, if we can, because that needs to be worked in here if we're gonna do anything. I don't know where it's at right now. I guess, worst case scenario, we'll use the insurance money and fix it up the best we can, we'll continue to use it. I know Deb's office, the emergency management office, talked about possibly utilizing the pickup. But that needs to be decided also, because then I need to work some numbers here. Other than that, that's all I have.
I think let's just, when we go through everybody with the pickup deal, maybe we can figure out exactly who's gonna take it then.
Okay.
Or want it, let's put it that way. So we can just work that out, I would think. But I think before we get done here with you, Justin, I think we're in agreement with that. The commissioners are saying that's what we wanna do with going to the 12 and 1 and a secretary. So we can keep moving on now. Yes, Becky?
Okay, so I would like to have some clarification. We are talking the full-time jail administrator all in the jail, or 25% of the sheriff?
I think we talked about just leaving the 25% of the sheriff just to make that resolution, so if he's gotta use it, he's got it, otherwise it's not legal.
Okay. So, 3/4 time there, okay. 4 jail sergeants, which wage for you guys going off on those?
I think currently where they would be at it, correct?
$17.
Like Glenn and Leandra, their wage, okay. 8 correction officers,
1565.
2 part-time
Well,
nurses,
Certified, you know,
Yeah.
1607,
Yeah.
yeah, or
2 part-time nurses.
38, whatever it is.
Yeah, I know the wages,
Yeah.
but I just wanna make sure I'm getting all the employees covered here. Yeah, that's all gonna be
But
different,
after the certification, there's another 50 cents.
and the increase. Okay, so,
That's just after their probationary one, and after certification, it's another 50 cents.
Yes.
2 part-time nurses and then 1 part-time jail employee, or are you gonna have more than 1 part-time correction officer?
We've always, I mean, if someone's wanting to work part-time, it's, you can't, you don't know what those hours are gonna be. We've had up to 4 before, but we haven't been able to have more than 1 lately for
Right.
quite some time, so it's very difficult to find a part-time.
This is just for building and budget purposes, like, what
Right.
are we going
I
to,
think right now I got 2 or 3.
so what do you guys want built in?
We're talking hours, basically.
Yeah.
Do you
'Cause-
feel comfortable with 1, John? Justin?
I guess I'd prefer 2, but that's up to you guys. I mean, I don't
Well, if you had 2,
utilize
wouldn't one of them be your nurses?
Yeah, they're not trained to do any of the CO stuff, they're just be very nurses.
The reason
They
there's
don't
2
cover
nurses is
shifts.
because they're just called in as needed.
Yeah, we just call, it's just a PRN, we just call them at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you gotta come do this, and they come do it.
And the reason for 2 is 1 covers the Carol's went on vacation and we've had to have one.
We always have one available.
Yeah. The one doesn't get very many hours, it's just to fill in when the other one's gone, so.
Yeah, basically.
But I just put them in and figure them at 520 hours each, just to cover
Yeah,
So
that,
you're basically talking 1,040 hours.
for the nurses, yeah.
And
But the-
so,
And I can decrease that if,
because the second one will never reach that
right.
point.
so what were you thinking as far as hours, as far as part-time officers? To,
1,040 each. That's what
Up
we
to
have.
that. Not-
Yeah, that's what
Most
we
of them don't
figured.
even,
The budget
don't even
purposes.
get that for the most part. Because I'm not gonna overstaff over there. It's only,
No.
it's
It's
replacement
just to
for,
fill in, so you'd be lucky to use 1,040 with 2 of them, depending on the year, you know.
You in agreement with that?
So once you have 2 at 520 hours.
Yeah, you do, that, whichever. 520 total or a piece?
a piece.
a piece, so 1,000.
So 1,000, yeah.
So basically, you're looking at half-time, or quarter time, 2 quarter times, which would equal total hours of that.
That'd look a lot better budget.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement there? And you got the secretary too then?
Because I'm just doing jail right now. So the nurses is 1,040, way too much, should I decrease that to 520
I think you
total?
can drop that down, because what's 10 or 26 pay period times? Just 10 hours. Yeah, I think we can buy them. Yeah, 600, something like that. Because the second one, I mean, $180, just filling in the minimum cost.
So I'll take that to 520, I'll take total, so, and then I'll take the 2 part-time employees, 520 each for a total of 1,040. That's what everybody's wanting? Okay. Sheriff's office then, Josh, 2 full-time deputies, a quarter of Justin's wage, and a full-time secretary.
Yeah.
Correct.
Everyone? Okay.
Yes, Lynn?
Doesn't Josh have 2 part-time deputies?
You said that.
That has actually been moved back to 1 part-time.
It was moved
at
back to.
1,040 hours. Is that where you want to keep that at? Because it's
Yeah.
the only one you ever use.
Yeah.
Anything else then, Josh?
Nope, other than the technical things. If I
Yeah,
gotta,
we'll just-
if I gotta work any numbers in,
We'll just go at the end when we get through everybody that we want to pick up, then we'll discuss that then.
okay,
All right?
thank you.
Let's just take a 5-minute break right now. We can just talk about it. So what does the commission want to do now? We got the secretary at the sheriff's office done. What do you want to do with at Deb and in case he's, do you want to stick with a quarter or do you want to go to half and half?
In visiting with them over the course of the last several months, it appears that they're gonna need half and half.
Can you guys
Neither
go?
one of them are here.
I think Greg just went to go get him. I don't know.
Oh, what's that?
I think Greg just went to go get him.
But I guess what I'm saying is, what would we do? Are we gonna hire a full-time person with benefits? Or are we gonna say, okay, you get a half-time with no benefits?
She said she tried part-time, right?
I think I would, personally, I'd like to see them try to, if they can do that, go to a halftime, but either one of them can hire whoever they want, you know, maybe not be the same person.
Well, it can't be the same person, right?
Not a person.
Not gonna be some- no. Okay. That'd be my suggestion, try to have time with no benefits.
I agree.
Okay, Deb, we're talking about you guys.
Okay.
So going with a half-time person, you hire somebody,
For each of us, half-time. Well, in my world, Chelsea would probably be given a choice on where she wanted to be.
guess
So either us or the sheriff would be hiring. We have a strong feeling we know where she'll go.
We already asked Josh and he said she would rather stay down there.
I think that's true.
Okay, so you guys each have your own.
Or would we hire one to share?
Can't, if you're gonna go full-time, then they have full-time hours. And you gotta pay them benefits on top of it.
We can try it, Kevin. I just don't hold much hope that we would each get a part-time person with no benefits.
What do you guys feel?
What is it, roughly, what does it cost the benefits for one?
Depends on if it's single or family.
Well, we don't get family.
We don't
anymore.
pay family insurance anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You guys don't
So-
pay half of that, so single, and
It's probably around 50 for the
let me just-
benefits.
15, 18?
No, I mean, I think if we add benefits and stuff, a full-time employee is probably around 50,000.
Yeah, I was just talking to him, sure.
Be more than that.
always figured a full-time employee is about almost 60,000.
That's with everything.
With wages and benefits and everything.
To be honest with you, Kevin, I'm not as, I mean, if that's what it is, that's what it is, but I would be more in favor of hiring one person with benefits for Casey and I to share. That would be my request.
I understand that, but where we're gonna pay for it, that's where I'm
I
coming
understand
from.
where you're coming from too.
That's why we're making cuts in the jail and trying to make cuts here, because
But remember,
when,
you cut
when's this gonna stop?
You cut two full-time people out of each of our offices, we're asking for one. You cut a full-time deputy for me and a full-time deputy for Casey, and we're asking to have one of them back between the two of us.
You're saying that you can get by with a half,
We hope, we will sure try it, yeah.
okay? So find somebody that you can hire for, if you each hire a half, and we still save the money of the benefits.
Well, I understand that, I'm just telling you, I don't think we're going to have much luck in hiring two half-time people with no benefits. If that's what you guys want us to try, we will try.
That'd be my suggestion.
Yes, but
Our insurance costs are coming in at around 15,000 for a full-time, just the insurance, then you gotta figure retirement.
So I think it's like 33,000, or it'll be 48, about 48 or 50 for with insurance and then the rest of it.
Yep. Salary and everything.
So 55 or 60 with everything.
what's the rest of the commission feeling on that?
I know the money's tight, but looking down the road, if something happened where Casey would leave or something,
Our Debbie
we need
died.
someone trained to step in their place. We've been very fortunate over the years
Big enough for anybody.
Yeah.
that we had Micah trained and Casey trained when the registered deeds left. Right now, if something happened, Casey would leave, we got nobody trained to go into that office.
And you took 120,000 away from us, we're asking for 60 of it back.
Okay, that's how you look at it.
Probably wouldn't be too bad idea full time, but
I guess my opinion on it is I think you're gonna have a hard time finding somebody, I think.
If we find somebody, we're not gonna keep them, they're gonna go for the next full-time job they get. And it's just and it's time consuming to train someone in both of those positions.
In all reality, I believe the second that, I think that's what you're gonna have to do is a full-time and split it between the two. That's my opinion. Yes, Kevin?
Okay, I'll throw something out there to make it to sweeten the pot a little bit. How about we make it a full-time with benefits, and part of their job would be commissioner's assistant also.
I'd be asking quite a bit. Steve?
You're talking about commissioner assistants. Isn't that the job of the auditor to be assistants to the commission? Rather than hire a separate person for that position? I always understood that was her job.
Not to try to get grants and do all the other
That's exactly
research
what I'm
and
saying.
all the other research and everything else. There's many
That's been going on for
Counties.
years and years.
There's many counties that have assistants too.
I don't think we can afford all these assistants we're talking about.
I'm just throwing that out, if they want a full-time, there'd be another thing that that person could do.
How about this? What if, go ahead, Becky.
It's not the job of the county auditor to do the things that they're requesting.
Pardon?
It's not the job of the county auditor to do the things that they are requesting, as far as an assistant goes.
What about if we would just look at hiring part-time, and see how that goes, and then look at something different when that's just my thought.
Part-time, or full-time
Part-time, but full.
between the two?
Correct.
Right,
So
okay.
full-time with benefits between the two?
Right,
And part-time in each office.
just like where you guys are quarter, half now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Maybe just get reversed there a little bit,
half.
so then you can just come, yes, Linda.
So the counties that don't have county assistants, who does the things for the commissioners?
A lot of them do it on their own.
Right, so if the auditor wasn't doing the things that the commissioners requested, the commissioners would be doing it. Isn't that what we're paying you to do?
Part of it.
And as far as grants go, isn't there another NECOG that you can use to do grant applications for you?
Not all
Isn't
of
that
it.
available?
Not all of it.
No.
They only deal with what their specialty is.
So how many grant applications do we have that come from the commissioners? That the commissioner's assistant would be doing?
We could research it and do a lot. When Ryan was here, Ryan put in for a lot of grants.
For the courthouse, for what? I mean, the highway department, don't they do their own? And the landfill, don't they do their own?
And Ryan did a lot for us too.
Yeah, like he worked at the landfill, so if there was grants for that, that was part of his job.
He did more grants than just a landfill.
Oh, I know, you did courthouse,
Yeah, he was doing all.
I just think it's a lot of responsibility to put on a new person coming in full-time to be shared for those two offices, to learn those two offices and be a county assistant.
What does the rest of the commission feel? I mean, of what I just said, and then maybe look at down the line if something can be done. How do you guys feel about that?
Full-time is what, half and half, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. Because I believe, I've never worked in Casey's office. But it evidently takes a while to get trained up into that, be able to handle everything in her office.
Maybe you want that position.
No way.
Yeah.
You know, I think more Casey than, Deb has got Greg, there's two in that office, you know, so if something would happen, one of them would decide to retire or leave or whatever, someone's still trained in that office to take over, but in Casey's office, we have no one, so. I would sure support a full-time position, half and half.
Davis,
I also.
Marion, Kevin?
I say no, but
I guess, I agree that it's probably gonna be hard to hire two part-timers. But I guess I would lean more to trying that first, just for budgetary items. To see if they could hire two part-timers.
Just go two part-timers, two separate ones, is that what you're thinking?
That's what I would rather see myself, just for dollars.
Yes, Becky?
But as far as payroll standpoint, we have a lot of turnover the way it is, and like Deb said, if you hire a part-time person, first full-time job that comes open, they're gonna leave, so you're going through all the training, everything, and then you're gonna lose them. And also, if you go to advertise for a full-time, you're gonna have more qualified applicants than you are if you go for 2 part-time ones.
I think how it probably worked before, and kind of worked, I guess, between the 3 offices is because it turned into a full-time position where they got the benefits. But I guess in my mind, that's where I'm at too, is I think we're gonna have a hard time finding somebody if we're gonna try to get 2 half-time people. I think that's gonna be very hard to do, in my opinion. So, what do we wanna do?
The other thing I want you to remember is that we don't always all necessarily spend everything that's in our budget. For example, last year, I had $17,000 left in my budget that I did not spend. So, you know, keep that in mind too. I can't be the only office that did not spend my entire budget.
So Marion, how are you thinking? Are you changing your mind on it, or?
I totally agree that it's probably gonna be a lot easier hiring a full-time with benefits. Unfortunately, it seems like everything in the world right now is based on benefits,
I don't think that's gonna change.
and that's not gonna change. Everybody's looked at a position with benefits because health insurance has gotten so stupid out of control. But, and again, I don't know what goes on in those offices as far as the needs and everything else, so it's hard for me to say, no, let's just stay to a quarter-time person or a half-time person. Looking at dollar amounts, like I said, I'd like to see just go to the half-time, but totally agree with being the ability of hiring a full-time is gonna be a lot easier than splitting it. So I guess I would support that.
Kevin?
Well, they said they're getting by with a quarter each right now. So let's double it and give them full benefits too.
What do you mean, I guess?
They're both getting by with a quarter, so they're making that work right now with a quarter. So let's have them both double it and give them benefits too.
That's what we're talking about.
I know.
Okay. That's what we'll do then.
What? I missed it.
Half, and full benefits.
But not, I wanna get this straight, not until the 1st of January, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just so we, start advertising at the right time, I don't wanna try to hire somebody now and say, oh yeah, but you don't start till the 1st of January.
Correct. Alrighty.
Are you done?
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Corner.
I do believe that we should probably make a change in the corner because Eric contacted me yesterday. There's a training that he has to go to annual leave for the corner, and he's gonna go this time, but there's no budget built in there for travel. So we should probably build, I would assume, about $500 in there for travel expenses. He's gonna have to be attending these trainings.
Alrighty. Anything else? Emergency and disaster.
On, I guess it comes to, you know, the pickup talk that we had talked about with Josh a little bit, and I know that there's other entities involved in this. But just since I'm already looking for a vehicle, and we were maybe figuring the 15,000 for a vehicle and waiting till the first of the year, my two questions is if I take that vehicle, Josh could essentially keep the insurance part, I guess, that was paid out for that vehicle, to go towards a purchase of the vehicle if I were to actually take on the deputy truck. And then in return, I wouldn't have to increase my supply budget by the 15,000, and then just maybe increase my repairs and maintenance so I could at least fix the hood on that vehicle. You know, so that's, I guess, an option that I was kind of looking at, you know, if I were to take on that vehicle. It's set up already for lights, radio, that kind of stuff, all the things that I kind of need. It gives me the additional bigger back seat, because that's kind of essentially what I'm looking for in a vehicle, is just something that has a little bit more room in case I need to, you know, put more supplies in. The tonneau cover is obviously on there, and the tray underneath, so that I can put the supplies that I'm already packing into my back seat back in there. So I guess I would like to maybe see that happen, depending on what everybody else says, but Becky had a question?
The landfill does not want that pickup.
Well, then maybe we should just get it over with right now then, if you're the one that really wants it.
I just think it's set up for exactly kind of what I need already, and if it would save on the budget side as far as not increasing my supplies, you know, I'm going out and purchasing a vehicle and it just is increasing my repairs and maintenance a little bit, it would probably be beneficial to just do it that way, I guess. And then just like I said, he can take on, I mean, because obviously my department would have to pay his department something, and if that means that he can just take the insurance check to go towards, you know, his next vehicle, it wouldn't be really any money coming out of the actual pot a little bit, you know. So that's that side of the discussion.
Yes.
Am I missing something? You said something about we had figured in there 14 to 15,000.
Yeah, it's not on there. It's actually stayed the same. But the vehicle that we had been looking at through federal surplus was at that 14.9, that Expedition.
Okay.
If we weren't going to do that, I guess that my only concern was, you know, waiting for the next few months that those vehicles that are available at that level not be there. So would that be enough, or would we still be in the same situation of supplementing the budget so that, you know, I'd be able to get a vehicle, the next lowest in line, which is in like that 20,000 range the last time I looked on the federal surplus. So I guess those are the two sides of.
So if we transfer the pickup over, right now you have $8,000 figured in for supplies, and $2,000 for maintenance. Would that cover the fix up of that pickup that needs to be fixed up?
Well, they fixed part of it already.
Yeah.
Yes,
Part of it's been fixed. The main problem's gonna be the hood.
Yep.
I checked with J&J Auto. They figured around 900. Josh and I talked to him one day to do that. I don't know if the tonneau cover would need to be fixed or not, for what purpose you would have for it.
Right.
But there's been some repairs made already, so. But there's other expenses out of repairs, you know, that she has and supplies. That pickup would have been built into this, you don't have an equipment line?
No, that was my other question, is if I had to build that into my budget, if there was gonna actually be like an you know, because it's all I think ever came out of supplies, if there's ever been anything, so. So I guess that's the side for the pickup side of it, you know, what you guys would want to do or decide on, I guess.
So based in your supplies, you feel you've got enough in there to cover that, to fix that pickup?
Right,
You just have to
because,
change the line item and make that as a equipment repairs, or?
no, it would be on the repair and maintenance side of it, it would come out of there, and I figure if it is the $1,000 to repair the hood, for this next year, I think that'd be fine. My only concern is going into a bigger pickup. If you blow a tire, if, you know, something else happens, it's a little bit more expensive in a bigger pickup. So once that $1,000 right off the top goes out, you know, to repair that hood, you know, the $1,000 remaining, you know, if nothing happens, it'd be great, you know, but would I have to increase that a little bit just to cover the repairs and maintenance side if anything would happen to that pickup? down the road too. Oil changes, whatever, I think, you know, that maintenance stuff, it'd be fine to keep that $1,000, but
I don't know, I think you'd be fine with kind of just 1,000 there.
I kinda thought so too, yeah. So, I guess that's all I have on the pickup side, but,
Is this where we do the idea of transferring the pickup? I mean, it sounds to me like
There's
there's
another
drop
set
it
of
off.
tires too.
okay, so,
Drop her off,
it
so
would be fine.
with it,
What did you say, Jeff?
There's another set of tires down in Selby Oil that we utilize during winter. So,
I assume you got fairly good tire mileage,
yeah.
and no more than what a man drive that had probably last her several years,
Yes, Becky?
But correct me if I'm wrong, weren't we talking about them using it till the end of the year? So then would we wanna just,
And then I could just keep using the EM truck that I have now until the end of the year, just like we had already planned if we were gonna wait till the first of the year for
Yeah.
surplus.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, that's
Yeah.
all good.
So,
Would that EM pickup then be available, like if Greg and I needed it for our work? For you?
Yeah, because I thought that's what Jim kind of suggested a while ago, that we were just gonna keep that EM pickup around.
mhm.
Or,
That's what I'd like to see,
Yeah, we could work with Dave when he needed it, you know what I mean? For
Yeah.
mosquito spraying or whatever, but if Greg and I get on some of those country roads, or like lately we've been on some unimproved section lines where we really could have used something besides that culvert.
I guess I was under understanding we were just gonna leave it here for,
Okay, that's, I just wanted to make that.
And then I guess too, because I know it's been a topic of discussion and I just haven't heard one way or the other, about me driving a vehicle back and forth. So I guess I'd like to discuss that. Is it going to be an option for me to be able to drive back and forth? And I know that the other option that I've talked to a few of you about is moving the EM office back to its original place where it was actually at originally, and it wasn't originally in Mobridge. And so I've discussed it and found a couple places, but the most viable option that I've kind of came up with, just as an option, if we don't want me driving back and forth, is I've talked to the fire chief over there, Doug Delaroy, because they have two offices that they don't actually utilize. They're set up with radios and everything. So he kind of took it a step further, just went and discussed it with the city of Mobridge, and obviously they would like something compensated. So they came up with a $300 a month rental fee. They'd have to come up with a lease agreement. It has the radios, it has the table and everything that would be set up if I would need to open up an EOC. It has the space for that, you know, the kitchen, the bathroom, and all that kind of stuff. That includes everything. I wouldn't have to pay for phone, I wouldn't have to pay for electricity, nothing. It's just so that I can be there. They're including everything else in there. So yeah, about that $3,600 a year to be able to set up that office. So it's just those two options, just because, you know, it happened again, where we had a moment where, you know, and in my job, I understand, I'm not a first responder, but there are certain moments where I need to be on scene, because through my office, there's certain resources that can only be ordered through my office. And certain things that I can bring to the table for resources. And there was recently a search and rescue that had to happen. Thankfully, by the time we all got on scene, the guy was found. But I didn't have time, because what had happened was it was closer to Mobridge than it was to Selby. And I understand that if I'm in Mobridge and there's something that happens in Selby, but I'd be able to have a vehicle to just get on the road and go. I felt in that situation, if I needed to, you know, get a drone on the way over or something so that we could help the situation, that I needed to be on scene right away. And so I had to show up again in my personal vehicle. You know, and so it's just, these things kind of keep coming up. And personally, I don't feel comfortable showing up on these scenes with my personal vehicle. Because once again, like I said, I didn't have a radio. I didn't have, you know, I didn't know what was going on until I got on scene to actually get updated on. You know, so I want to kind of, you know, have that discussion about, you know, if I'm not able to utilize the tools that I have when I need them, you know, how effective am I going to be fully in my job? You know, so I just, wanna bring that to your attention, I guess. There's a couple options that are out there.
So technically, the question would be, would it be cheaper to have you drive that pickup back and forth, or rent a spot over there? And if you rented a spot over there, where would you keep it over in Woodbridge, at your
I would
house?
keep, no, I would drive to the office then, and at least my vehicle would be in the area, so, I would keep it down right in that back lot by that water tower behind the fire department, and keep it down there, and then I would just show up to my office, and then, you know, if in the middle of the night I had to go out, and I needed it, you know, I could drive 3 blocks and get into my vehicle versus 20 miles. Because there's already been times where I've just made the decision to take it home because the weather's been bad or something like that. But those unknown emergencies that you never know when they're going to happen, those are the ones that get you.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because you answer more than just weather related.
Oh yeah.
How does the commission feel?
More things happen over there than here, I guess.
Well, looking at her, you got $2,000 figured in for your budget as far as utilities. And you're saying they're not gonna charge you any utilities?
No, they said there was a, yeah, I would have to go back and, because this is all, you know, not written down and it's all just kind of a handshake kind of a thing, you know what I mean, like, just one of those conversations. So until we get it down on paper and actually have a lease agreement signed, but the number that I keep hearing from all the entities is the $300. So.
So if you look at that, where basically it's gonna cost us $1,600 to have her over there, well, she'll spend that much driving back and forth herself. That's, I mean, to me, I see that as a win-win situation there, if that would be the case. And then have the ability to have that vehicle right there where you're at.
Yeah, just the miles she'll put on back and
Just,
forth.
yeah, just the miles and wear and tear on the vehicle alone is gonna take me up $1,500.
And then also, I just want to bring up too that, you know, I want to be accountable. I don't want, you know, things to say I'm not showing up to the office or something like that. So I don't know how to do that. I don't have the fingerprint system. You know, if this is what I do end up going back over there, I don't have a way to clock in and check in. So I don't know if I can do that through dispatch and just, you know, call in and that would count as my, you know, when I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning as my, hey, she's there, you know, kind of a thing. Because, you know, I want to be able to have a way to have that kept up, like this is, you know, she's there and to have that accountability too, you know what I mean?
Well, what kind of time clock did we have at the highway department? Wasn't it like this one down here?
It's a fingerprint one. Oh, I hate them. We all hate them.
Oh, okay.
They're junk. I have to go to the recycle center and to the landfill and use my cell phone and take pictures of each person's clock-ins and then go to the computer and do all the work on it. It seems like that's so 1972. It's their pain. And half the time they don't work.
This isn't something we need to decide today, is it? Amanda could
It's a big, something like that isn't a big ticket item.
work on it a little more and get something down on paper and we'll kind of get.
So you want me to go actually officially to the city and have an agreement written up by the next time I see you and all that kind of stuff so you guys can actually physically see something down?
That would be where to start and then we can decide.
I just wanted to get that feeling, you know, before I went through that to.
Would they have a designated phone line for EM then?
They have a phone line there that's actually the fire department's phone line, but it very rarely, you know, gets used or anything, but they said I could just jump on that phone number. And so then through all of my process and everything, I would have to change everything on my contact information as far as all the entities that have my number and everything. But realistically, I got a landline down in my office now, but everybody gets a hold of me on my cell phone if I need to, really. You know, so I don't think that would be a huge thing that would factor in, but I would definitely go through the steps of whatever my office number's out there. I know that there's still some that I've missed, and my office number is still going, kind of through the auditor's office every once in a while too, I think, and stuff, so,
Well, why don't you just get it all figured out and bring it back to us?
okay.
Marion?
I mean, do we need to even change anything on the budget items based on, even if we did the $3,600 or a year over there, we take off the $2,000 in utilities here, and then she's got travel expense in there, I think we're pretty well covered anyway. I don't know if there's a need to change anything else.
I would just leave it the way it is, especially since it's not a confirmed agreement.
Right.
And just have it done before the finalized.
Well, even if you wouldn't, I mean, you can always reduce somebody's budget by a supplement. I mean, you don't have to use your entire budget like Deb said.
Okay.
I mean, since it's unknown at this time, we're better off being covered than not having enough.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Support of four. Oh,
So you're transferring the pickup over to her? Okay. Over there, that's the plan? By the board?
As of January.
Okay. The insurance dollars, because I need to start looking for a vehicle, so I can, and I would like to start that process now. So what, I guess, what are we gonna do there? Am I utilizing insurance dollars only? Or are we putting extra money in there for, basically, am I looking at new or used to replace that? What's the board's thought process on it?
well, I guess, why don't
You
you,
got,
Because a brand new one, I don't, with the two insurance checks, yes, sorry, Becky.
No, go ahead.
finish that.
I was gonna ask her anyway, what did those two checks come to? Pickup and then her pickup.
Well, the Silverado was 16,000. Her pickup ended up being like 80.
Yeah, 86 or 89, I think.
But what I was just gonna say is, this would probably just have to be a budget item regardless, because you're not gonna do it till after the first of the year anyways. So that money was receipted into the general fund, it's there. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna specifically go write a check and say this was my insurance proceeds. So if this isn't gonna happen till after the first of the year, then you guys need to look at building something into his budget to cover whatever he's gonna end up being approved by.
And that's what my question is to the board, how Becky stated, what would you like me to do? For budget purposes for the new year.
Well, I guess to me, don't you think you should look for what would be new and see what you can find out there and use for what you really want? I mean, because there might not be something used out there that you really want without a ton of miles on it. That's my
Right.
opinion.
It was about time to replace it anyway, about next year anyway, so I would suggest you replace it with a new one. I think we need to get on a rotation where we replace one every year. Instead of two one year and then none the next year and then two again and.
we're already replacing one next year.
Yeah, and this wasn't the one that was scheduled to be replaced.
I guess my opinion is you should look to see what you can get. Was it, you had to find that one, where, Texas was it or something?
Right. But they built that one for me, I mean, which is, I mean, it came equipped. I mean, I had to send the radio down there, which they installed for me, but I just had to mail it down there. But I guess what I'm saying is the insurance isn't gonna cover that if I go new. So we need to figure out what we wanna put in there for January. I guess if the board is thinking used, I need to know that. If they're thinking new, then I need to give you a number and put it in there.
I guess I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but I think it should be new.
I would, yeah.
I don't think if you're looking at a pickup, I don't think the pickup you're gonna find is.
Okay, can I go back?
100 miles.
I had two vehicles figured in there originally, we took the one out. And I put that regular amount back in there, because that would have covered two vehicles.
What do you guys feel? Nobody wanted that hailstorm.
No, I know. But we're down to the nitty gritty here, so that number does need to be put in there.
Do you need 5 vehicles for 3 people? If you're getting a new one next year, do you still need 5 vehicles for 3 people?
I'm rotating one out. The one Taurus is going to the new person. So, and the Taurus already has 90-some thousand miles on it. So it's gonna be rotated out. Mine's got 109,000 on it.
But to get on a rotation, do you need 5 vehicles for 3 people to,
No, I'm trying to
for every
rotate,
year?
I'm trying to rotate one of them out. The reason the reason we did that, I did, they were through federal surplus. We had to put some dollars into them, but some tires, some minor repairs on them. Those 2 Tauruses were bought at the same time, and I saved a lot of dollars when I did that. And I didn't even spend all the money that was essentially in there for a new vehicle, because that's what the county or the commission wanted me to do at the time. So therefore, that's how I ended up with that extra vehicle, okay? One's being rotated out, one's gonna be rotated out shortly thereafter. It's, when you're putting 30,000 miles on a car, on a vehicle, I don't have to explain that to you guys already know that. But, so yes, Kevin, no, I do not need 5, but I'm slowly trying to get that rotated out.
So that's what I'm saying is, do you need 2 this coming year? Or can you wait for another year to get another one rotated out, so at least you start on a car a year rotation?
Could you replace, instead of replacing the car, could you take the dollars that we have figured in there and replace the pickup? And then start into that rotation with that next year? To where you get down to your 4 vehicles? Instead of having, I guess I'm thinking is, like, I'm trying to think of, Kevin, is, all of a sudden we're gonna have 2 brand new vehicles sitting there, a pickup and a car. Could we take, and because of this insurance check and stuff that we've got, can we get the new pickup for a replacement this year and then go into the rotation schedule next year? Then you'd be back into your four vehicles, if I understand that right.
But I'm still gonna have vehicles with I'm gonna have several vehicles with high miles by then. So I guess I would essentially like to get it replaced. If I'm releasing the pickup, I would like to get that replaced. And keep what I have, my original request. I wasn't anticipating the pickup wasn't the one going down the road. So that's not the one that was leaving my rotation. So, I guess I would rather get get the 2 replaced.
In your rotation, then, were you eventually gonna get rid of that 5th vehicle, just all the?
Yes.
Well, we need to make a decision.
That fifth car plus probably mine. I'm still driving my original car that I was working with, for Dwayne Moore, so, but it's been a good car, I'm not complaining.
And probably the rotation really wouldn't even start the next year, you would get 2 this year, otherwise.
We should have had one in our budget for this year, just in case something like this happened.
There was one in there.
For 19?
Oh, you meant for 19?
Yeah.
Oh, I understand you.
If we'd had the one in there for
You know, and
19, we wouldn't be on this discussion.
And I know what Jim's saying, I don't know that we actually ever did that. I mean, personally, you try to plan, but you don't put a whole vehicle in there usually. But I understand what you're saying, Jim. May not get used, may get used, you just, but, like I said.
Marion, Kevin?
I'd like to see what Marion says, use the money and switch it from the car to the pickup to get that one replaced. And then start the rotation next year for your cars.
How many miles would the next one have on it, then that would be in the one that you would be looking at saying he would be gone?
All depends on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just using that 30,000, I don't have them numbers with me.
You should get. Well, my car, because it's got the higher mileage by about, than the Taurus does. So probably my car, is gonna have the highest, but those are, the patrol deputies are out on, I'm out there too, I don't wanna say that wrong, but they take calls and they put more miles on than I do. So that Taurus could break or catch me. All depends on what I have, what's being done at the time. But if I'm putting on the same miles and whatnot as the other two are, it obviously mine's going to, but it's versus 90,000 versus 109. So. What was that word?
He'd have 140 at the end of next year if he puts 30 more, 139,000.
Which is still way less than what I got in my pickup.
I don't know if you drive your pickup quite the same as they drive theirs sometimes.
No, but I'm just saying, well, then let's just
Or
buy.
you shouldn't be, I
Let's
should
just
say.
buy 5 new pickups or 5 new vehicles then.
I think what we're talking about here.
We'll just start a 5-year rotation where every 5 years we buy 5 new vehicles.
Well, I think, we weren't anticipating that pickup getting.
No, but why can't we switch it out and take the money and buy a pickup this year and if we need the pickup?
I guess that was my thinking, and the whole thing was trying to get from the 5 vehicles down to the 4 vehicles. And this would be an opportunity, basically, because we got the insurance money, to use that money to basically switch that, get yourself a new pickup for 2020. And then get ourselves in a rotation starting next year, where we get, basically get all these vehicles on a rotation where we're getting new ones. And get them put in that rotation. That gets us down to the 4 vehicles instead of the 5.
board's gotta let me know what they wanna do.
I mean, I guess, I understand high mileage is high mileage, but these newer vehicles anymore, 140, 50,000 miles isn't unusual.
For us,
Hmm?
for us.
Oh, I know, there's a
They're
definite,
altogether different ballpark.
there's definitely a difference, but I mean, it's, you know, those motors are, they're designed to take and do that, I'm not, but. I guess just to move things on, I'd like to see us just leave it as it is and have them use the funds towards the pickup.
Kevin, I take it that's how you,
Yeah, which actually could reduce that 61,000, because we're getting 16,000 from insurance.
No, still, but that's an issue, so we still get leave it in the budget.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. That's what I would like to see.
and you two are still the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, you know, it's a lot of miles to get out of million speeds and out there at night, I don't know. You know, we go around, water pump, anything that we wear out. Yeah, well,
You can have that happen on a new vehicle
the chances
too.
are.
I know, there's, you can still have it happen.
I guess I would, I think this wasn't anything planned, so, but I would just soon see it down to 4, but I believe that going to. Even though we didn't want to spend that kind of money for 2 vehicles, I guess I feel like we should. I don't like spending it like that, but I don't really think we have a choice.
And I'll rotate the other one out as quick as I can. Sell it, we usually surplus that, but I'll work with Becky on that. That was one of the things Ryan, you know, I've done it before, but it's,
So then we'll have to put back into his budget, correct?
You guys have to tell me where to put it at. But if you're doing one pickup and one car, then cars are a little cheaper than pickups, right?
I would think they're quite a bit cheaper. What do you think?
What's that?
I would think that the pickup, or the car is quite a bit cheaper than the pickup.
It is for us. But I don't know when you're talking, you know, their vehicle.
But in your honest
I
opinion,
guess I'll
Josh,
put,
what did you have in there right away that time? It was 100?
I had one SUV and a car in there,
And what was the figure?
the 106.
106. What was the car though, Josh? How much was that?
It's only 61. That's why I'm trying to figure out the numbers, how this is gonna come out with pickup.
44, I believe.
To me, I guess how I look at it, then if you would put it back to the 106, you should be all right. I would think that'd be,
Now, that does not include the insurance money, that, right, then the one, the insurance money doesn't go in on top of 106, does it?
Well,
So that comes into the general fund this year, doesn't it?
So this 106 would be a budgetary item that could go
Yeah.
out as expense.
so you feel 106 is gonna be fine, Josh?
I believe so, yeah.
What's the rest of the commission feel on that?
Let's take a vote and move on.
There'll be a motion made for this. I already, what I said, Kevin, I asked you and Marion, and
Well, you basically voted already, so,
for you too.
Yeah.
okay, so put it in as 106 and let's move on.
Becky, there was a question that came up. Sorry about going backward, but can those dollars still be put toward it then, technically?
They're in the general fund, so they're receiving in charge. That's where all your budget comes from.
Okay.
County nurse,
You guys already signed that contract.
ambulance, mental health, are we leaving that right where it's at? Extension. Is it a good thing?
And Sherry's right there.
Extension.
We had put in a request for 80,370, and I see that the amount that you tentatively approved in the provisional is 81.5, so, which is a difference of $1,130.
The original amount requested was before the decision made on the salaries and the health insurance. So what I have built in is full-time and then a quarter for Brenda. As far as salaries and insurance go, the rest of it was what they put in for other expenditures.
Any changes there?
We pay her salary, right, and then do we get compensated from Campbell County?
Yeah,
And then that just goes back into the general fund, right?
correct,
We've been getting that?
yes. We bill them quarterly.
Okay.
Weed control,
We're gonna discuss this one.
soil conservation. I was. Well, I guess I could bring it up, I guess, about that. I was talking to a few of the counties and we're on soil conservation and it seems like we're paying a lot more than a lot of counties are giving to soil conservation. And I mean a lot, I mean a lot.
Basically, we're just paying her insurance.
Some counties would only pay $1,000. I'm sure I remember why, it was because of the insurance. Is what we're paying, correct? I guess I think we should need to look into that.
And we don't have much time to look into it anymore this year.
That's what I'm saying, I think we need to look into it. I mean, for this, probably can't do much this year anymore, but I think we should really look at that. Weed control. Planning and zoning. Gary,
This has been a marathon.
Been worse on this side.
Understandable. I had very little input in this budget, and that's because I'm busy, and the people that did put the budget together, I appreciate it. If you guys can fund this, it's livable. Put it that way. I think the personal services might be running a little bit on the high side. To date, you know, we can waste a lot of time getting into all the details, but, it's looking to me like I'm projecting that the personal services, the highway department, in lieu of no expenses with, the possibility of penny coming back, we're gonna be coming in like 60,000 short of the budget. And, the overall picture, if you guys are looking at the amount expended for 2019, there looks like a large number of available budget to get to the end of the year. I want to say there's going to be in excess or in the vicinity of $100,000 of gravel crushing, hopefully, if I can speed this thing up and get it published. And get a contractor in by the end of the year. It's getting to be real tight on the time frame. And the equipment side of that thing, highway and major equipment, that $350,000 might not get spent in lieu of, if we've got it there, and a budget surplus, since it is a budget item projected to be spent, we would probably do some kind of equipment update prior to the end of the year. I'll take any questions. Becky, can you help me out on this for a second? Under the personal services, it looks like from this year's budget year, 124,000 and the amount approved 232. On the health insurance side, is it gonna go up that much? We do have two, full-time employees in here?
For your health insurance,
Yeah,
I figured that on what you currently have, and then,
2 part-time workers.
then it was switched to 2 part-time, so the 2 full-time are not included in that 100. The one you're looking at is
yeah, there's
not
like
the one that.
$98,000
You're not-
increase there.
You're not looking at the current one,
Okay.
so this is what is currently built.
So this isn't even current.
No, this is what is currently built in for approved. And it's not approved, it's just, because I didn't have what you actually wanted requested in the end
Okay.
for your department. But that's what's built in now, and that's based on our numbers that we got for health insurance and what employees you have now, and then that was decided on 2 part-time additionals, so then that doesn't have to be figured into the insurance.
But Gary, since we're talking about that, I guess, and I know this had been talked about before, but I believe that we should be taking somewhere in the neighborhood of about $12,368, something like that, out of the salary, because I guess I personally don't believe you need to have a foreman. And honestly, do you really think you need a foreman? You could see if you had 15 guys or 18 like you used to be there, but in all reality, do you need a foreman with the size of that you have? Because I believe if the reason why that foreman was put into that job was for the simple fact is Penny didn't know all the stuff about it, am I correct there? You didn't have a foreman before.
Yeah, I wasn't,
Right.
I wasn't in the position.
Right. But I guess
It's, I would like to keep it. With the possibility that you start taking titles away is when you start seeing employee vacancies. The luxury would be that, I look at this situation as a new well being drilled. The pump's in the ground, the water's coming out, but it's really dirty and it's gonna take a lot of time for the water to clear up. So, in lieu of trying to increase the staff numbers in a realistic manner, to where we can do more, the more staff members you got, the less load it is for me to monitor staff if the foreman would assist. So, what did you figure the cost savings was to eliminate the foreman position?
a little over 12,000.
Do you really want to demote? Because that's what you're doing.
I know that's a hard thing to do. How I look at it is demote somebody, but I look at it too is that I don't know how fair that is to the rest of the people that work there when basically the other blade operators are doing the exact same job, but you're talking roughly $6 an hour difference for them guys all doing the same job, because we don't have to care ourselves, you know exactly what's going on there. And so that person doesn't really have to be doing basically your job anymore. I mean, am I pretty much correct on that? I mean, to me, I mean, that, if it's a time that I've seen where that person would be coming to Selby, that person could be blading a lot of roads if that foreman wouldn't be there. Or he could be moving a lot of snow when he could have been in Selby trying to tell the guys what to do, where that is, to me, I can see is your job.
I think I presented, my plan was to start building the future staff of the highway department and gain as much experience as possible, so when the employees start dropping off with retirement, we've got a support staff there where we don't feel the impact. So if you can play this scenario out, that it could possibly start with this advertisement for seasonal employees, that I think it was published this week. Somebody comes in, takes an application out, and it's like, what can you do? In the interview, I'm not gonna, if they're capable, start throwing them in the equipment, okay? So maybe that's what the foreman's job would be, so that I'm not leading by the hand, to train. Maybe his duties might increase, but I'm talking around this thing, Scott, for the fact that, number one, I didn't create the job. And number two, I think it's disrespectful to take a position away that's been granted. That's probably all I'll say about it.
But I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm looking at it that when that person is probably not doing all the duties that he's supposed to be doing as a blade operator, I mean, it's just, it can't be, not if he's in Selby. I mean, then it's obvious that blade is not moving. It's that simple. I don't know what the rest of the commissioners feel about this, but
Well, I know when we talked about it, back when we didn't sign the contract with Penny, we talked to Marty about that position. I mean, we need a highway superintendent that can run that whole thing. And so I'm not sure that Marty doesn't know that this is possible. But I know it's a tough situation, but I mean, we also, I guess my feeling is we brought you in with the idea that you have the experience, you have the knowledge, and know what's got to be done at the highway department. I mean, I don't know. I guess I feel like there's a lot of extra stuff that he's actually getting paid for that I don't see where he's doing it.
when you talk, Gary, about demoting somebody, and I guess, to me, that's kind of a harsh word when you say demoting somebody, but I look at it though, how fair is it to the rest of the blade operators? I'll say that again. How fair is it to them guys when they do the exact same thing and they're getting so much less?
A lot of mistakes have been made since I've been gone. Understand why the foreman position came about. When it comes to respect for the staff, if you show respect, you get respect. It's the same, plain, simple, that's how it works. So somebody, if I'm recruiting and talking of this possibility about bring some people in, whether you know it or not, you're looked upon as a career opportunity with the right person. Follow me? So the message you're sending is that, come on in, we want you, we'll train you, we'll make you the best of the best, the top gun thing. So here it comes, you provide somewhat of a lifetime of service. In this lifetime of service, now you get promotion to foreman, and now all of a sudden, bam, it's getting yanked away from you. That's not a good program. And I totally understand, I respect your take on it, but I think I answered your question, but I'd like to keep it.
And I'll ask the other commissioners once again.
I don't know how it is now because I haven't been down there a lot since Gary's taken over, but Marty did have more duties than the regular, before the regular blade operators. And I assume Gary probably relies on him quite a bit to handle some other duties other than what the rest of the blade operators do.
I don't know. I don't like to take it away from him. Because he's been quite a good one.
Like I said, I'm looking at it being fair.
Yeah, I understand yours.
I don't see it being unfair to the other blade operators. Because I assume he probably still does, or unless we take it away. He did have more responsibility, more than the other operators.
Anytime, well, of course that's how that position was made, because that person that was the head honcho did not know that. Everybody knows that. But when I'm bringing this up, it's because how I've always felt, but it's because, believe me, if you think that it's not some of the operators that aren't happy, then you're only fooling yourselves. That I can tell you. So be very wise with this decision.
I guess my opinion is, Gary, you're right, there has been mistakes made. I wasn't part of the decision when it was decided for him to be hired as a foreman. So maybe we need to correct some mistakes. He obviously isn't doing the job anymore that he was hired to do. So was it supposed to be a temporary job? If it's a temporary job, now that job is no longer needed, and he goes back to his regular job, should it be made right?
Marion?
Well, that's what, I mean, I pretty much stated my opinion on it. I just feel that we brought Gary in here to run this thing and I mean, Marty was put in that position because of circumstances that none of us were involved in. But I guess I feel that for the other blade operators and everything else, I feel that it just needs to be balanced out better. I feel like some of that whole deal is, one guy is getting, like I said, I could be totally wrong, I don't know what the overall workload is for him, what he's been given assignments to and everything else. But I can see that, I guess I don't know, I feel like the roads and stuff, he's got enough responsibility just keeping the road going on his section.
There's no question that's why when I figured we hired you, I mean, I figured we should not need to be paying that much more money to somebody when I guess I feel like Gary did it all before. My guess is that he'll do it again.
I have no comments on that.
What's the commission want to do over that?
I think with the shape our county highway department is in our roads and stuff, we need all the help we can get, so I would suggest we leave it the way it is.
I
I think Gary needs all the help he can get.
guess if Gary feels he needs them, I guess I have to back.
Kevin?
I guess my feeling is if you're trying to get more employees, there's a chance that you could save a little money to get more employees to do more and to make it more fair to everybody. It would go a long way, the 12,000 would go a long ways of one of the additional part-time that you want to hire in.
Marion?
I agree. I feel like the dollar savings there, if we can do that, it's somebody else that he can bring in to train, to fill in positions, and just a budgetary thing, again, looking at it and trying to balance things out and make it more fair to the other operators.
That's how I look at it, is I want to be fair to the other blade operators too, when they feel that they're not being treated fair.
If some of the other operators are commenting that it's not fair? Internal affairs type thing?
I just had conversations.
It's never been brought up to me.
Said
No one's
they
ever
didn't think
mentioned
it was real fair that, since you were back, that it's, you know, it's a position that doesn't really need to be there. That's what they brought to my attention, is why should it be there?
I'm kind of feeling chest pains, and if I die of a heart attack this afternoon, then, there's
We
no
have a
harm in taking
defibrillator out
over.
here for you.
Yeah, I didn't create the problem, and I support the hell out of the staff. It's not to my liking, but, you are the board of county commissioners.
I guess for my decision, I ain't looking at trying to get rid of anybody, I'm just looking at it trying to be fair to everybody. That's how I look at it. So my decision too would be that I think Marty should go back to being a blade operator and not a foreman. I feel if you have a bigger crew that you need, that a foreman is in need to be at that time, then I think that's when that should be created. I feel if you had needed a foreman back when, in the other days, you would have had one.
The first time I was here, we didn't have a whole lot more staff numbers than what we've got now. But we were chip sealing the entire crew, and also constructing roads with the same crew, both ongoing at the same time. It was micromanaged to the utmost. The chip sealers, it might have been a temporary farmer or something that retired. They'd be running packers. If they were capable, they'd be running dump trucks, dumping in the chip spreader. But we actually ran 2 operations at one time. That can be a load on management. And I would like to say that you're gonna see a lot more activity, especially with next construction season, where there's a lot more operations going on. This is the 12th week, I think, and it's still real early in the game to get a finger on where we're going, what we're doing, so. I think I'll quit talking about the foreman thing, because you know I'm not supporting it, so.
What would happen if you got sick or go on vacation? take over?
It would have to be the next in charge. The foreman.
Do what?
The foreman would take over if I'm incapacitated,
You don't have one.
then we don't have one.
My decision is gonna be that I don't believe we need that foreman position at this time.
Who's gonna determine what the pay scale gets dropped to?
Well, I'll be very honest with you, I've never agreed with the pay scale at all in this county. I've never agreed it, anybody that watched the video can say it. I've never agreed where somebody, on a road grader, somebody's been there, I'll just use 27 years for example. That guy should be getting paid the exact same thing, I don't care about the longevity. If he should be getting paid the exact same thing that somebody starts a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't believe for a second that that's fair. So you take it from there, that's how I feel that the pay schedule in this county is. It's
You're
very
saying,
lopsided.
you're saying a 20-year grader operator is more valuable than a 2-year grader operator?
Absolutely.
I agree totally with you.
I don't know how this ever got done in this county, but I think it's very wrong. And not even just the highway department, it's the other office.
You know what you can help out with. You know what the ironic thing about this is, like, I was operating a $1.1 million budget, and now I think this year's 1.4, in 18, 1.6, just about 1.7. Granted, I think there was some wheel tax money that came in that was a blessing for, help me out, you guys aware of that? Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, some.
How, did the state establish an increase in wheel tax revenues or something
Yeah, we went up to max.
that transported back to local government, right? Do you know what that number would have been?
We have, right now, we're at $5 per tire, max of 4.
And it
Max of
generates X amount of dollars. Do you know what that number is?
Not without looking it up to see the difference from before.
When I look at the budget, when I was there the first time, and the budget for this year, there's about $500,000 additional. And the approved budget for 2020 is about 1.9 million. There's a whole lot of revenue in there, and none of it, if there was a gift, we'll call it a gift with an increased wheel tax revenue. Nobody, absolutely nobody considered the fact that, hey, that is earmarked for highway departments only, and use that money since it's a gift and start bringing some payroll numbers up. You know what I'm saying? It was overlooked. The opportunity was, I guess the opportunity wasn't overlooked, but it was like that was a perfect opportunity to start raising pay scales, you know, just promoting a value to the employees at no additional cost to the taxpayers. You know what I'm saying? I'm totally in agreement with you on Scott and that thing that tour of duty number 1. I'm tired of saying the last time I was here, the landfill staff, dozers, scraper, it was a consolidated unit. The landfill staff was like, why does the highway department guys get more than we do?
Still are.
And it's like, people, the highway department staff are getting if they assume a 3% raise in a fiscal year based on your input, if they're here for 30 years, and let's consider 3% happen for that long, that's like 9% increase. The longer you stay, the more pay increases, cost of living increases you endure, and it slowly takes you up to 10 on the pay scale. And when somebody comes in and says, well, golly, I'm running dozer in a landfill, and it's like, why does your dozer operator make more? Because this guy's been there for 20 years. He's accumulated pay increases, cost of living increases. You've only got 2 years, so if you stay, you'll start building your way up the ladder too, so.
How do you fix that problem?
I'm guessing it should be these 5 guys here that need to fix the problem.
But you can't take and reduce salary. You can reduce a position, eliminate a position, but you can't reduce salary.
Well, you should start at some time saying, okay, we hire a new, I'm just gonna use blade operator, we hire a new blade operator. You shouldn't, you gotta start somewhere, whether or not it's gonna be there, or the jail, or sheriff's department, wherever. But I mean, to me, you gotta look at it, to me, it should, experience should go a long ways.
I don't disagree at all.
That'd be no different than me hiring somebody that can run a backhoe to somebody that's just a worker. I don't think it's degrading anybody. Yeah, if you all of a sudden become that blade operator, will you ever touch that guy's wage? Yeah, maybe in 27 years or something, but I'm just saying, I don't believe for a second that somebody starting new, unless you got a boatload of experience, you gotta earn that. That's how I look at it. Anything else, Gary?
Well, the numbers that, some of them that were put in there in that approved section, I didn't get from you at all, so I didn't know if you had any changes on any of those at all. I just kind of went based on previous years, I guess, at that point. Because I had to throw something in there at that time.
How's your, the 201 account, is the bank balance good on it? Is it?
I can get you a fund cash balance report.
We need, on the snow removal expense, I've already brought it to the attention that 2018 zero, 2019 zero. It's gratifying to end the amount requested in 2020 is zero. It's gratifying to know that that there's a budget projected in 2020 for at least 40,000. That number could go high. Those are snow expenses, HBR expenses, and secondary road expenses are restricted, whereby you've only got an avenue of expenditures, precise avenue of expenditures. So on the secondary road, the budget for 19 is 150. The approved budget is 150. As far as projects go, if we don't get something done to the KO Badgley Road this year, that would be a next year expense. And I had a meeting yesterday with local government assistance people down in the office. Cahill Badgley's Road, does qualify for federal aid, but the new format is they submit direct check payments to the counties and they don't administer projects. In the past, local government assistance would, the counties would hire an engineer, put plans together, filter it through local government assistance to get approval to use federal aid monies, and the project would go. Now it's simply write the check. They don't want anything to do with the plans and the administration stuff. So if we do the Cahill Badgley Road, it's should be done this year, at least the worst part of it. We're gonna see if we can get it done, but that secondary road expense, more than likely next year, will be a lot higher than 150. I'm thinking like the tune of 290. But with the secondary road expenses the way it is, there's no levy for secondary roads. Agree? So the 201 account, the county highway system is whatever number you guys have committed in 2020 of providing revenue from outside to the tune of 150,000. We might not spend it, but if we spend it, it's coming from some other outside source. And I'm thinking it's 201 account.
As far as these numbers that are in here, I just took last year's numbers that were put in. The expenses that occurred in 18, those transfers would be done at the end of the year. But the system wasn't caught up yet, so I don't have what those transfer numbers are, so that's why there isn't showing any snow expense and secondary road expense out of there. Or Penny would voucher specific things directly to those numbers. If you need to increase any of those, like I said, I just put in what was in last year because I had to put something in. So that's totally up to you what you want those numbers to be.
It's a starting point, and 1.837, that's the fine line. That much money is designated for the budget. It doesn't mean that you have to use it. And the bad part, and like I've said this before publicly, that there's a possibility that I might not spend the 2019 budget. Technically, if you don't spend it, it was never, from general, it was never placed into 201 until the need. You know what I'm saying?
As far as transfers go?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's a chance that if there's an underspending of the 2019 budget, and I'm just going to grab a number and say $300,000, that means $300,000 won't be transferred out of county general to road and bridge. You follow me?
Well, we haven't done a transfer of that for a while because the road and bridge fund was doing okay compared to the general fund. That's not built into 2020's budget to do a transfer.
You understand that? Budgets are budgets. You don't want to overspend. But certainly, if you are taxing the public based on a budget number and the entity doesn't spend it, somebody is butts in a sling there. Why did I pay taxes when you didn't use it? So it's too early for me to get totally comfortable with where we're going, the funding. At least we've got a start here that I'm comfortable with. And if you guys approve this, we'll make it work.
I don't know if you noticed, I also put in for 350 for equipment. And I just threw that in there because I didn't know, so
So that stays in capital outlay?
that's where it's just built into, that part of the budget, so major equipment, that's just how,
Oh, capital outlay is
it's just
zero.
its own subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Questions, comments?
Anybody have anything for Gary?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay.
What's the intergovernmental?
So it's wheel tax, 10% of the wheel tax we collect, we have to give to the cities. We don't have to, but we always have. There's some counties that don't give any to them. There was just an email chain going on about that, what different counties do about wheel tax.
Then when the cities get it, are they earmarked for a special project or?
But I don't know what the laws are and what the city has to do with them.
We don't keep any of it.
Yeah, yeah, just 10% of what we collect goes to the cities.
So the wheel tax, just a correction on that, is $5 up to 12 wheels.
Oh,
Maximum.
sorry. I knew that.
Okay.
Too many numbers today, but anyways,
Solid
so
waste?
landfill, I believe that half of my benefits should be coming out of the landfill fund, just because of the fact it's not tax funded. And also the landfill runs on normally, we profit. So I think you guys should really consider half of my benefits coming out there.
You mean like the health insurance and
Yep.
like that?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, but how would we do that? Because when we made that agreement, it was no vacation. So how would we?
That vacation has nothing to do with me because of my position.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just the benefits as far as the insurance benefits and things. I don't see that it's right that I'm working both places and only one has to cover the benefits and that being the one that the tax dollars go to. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it should be split evenly. 'Cause I don't think it should be the tax dollars paying for all of my benefits.
Do you know what those numbers would be?
It would be really simple to change it to, but we figured, I have family insurance, so I was grandfathered into that family insurance, so mine would be a little bit more than what the single would be, but I would figure 10,000, I mean.
What's the commission feel?
I would fully agree. That's what I was thinking, probably 20,000 between the two.
Right, that's why I said probably 10,000. That'll have to be in an motion because of the way you guys originally had made the motion, but I just wanted to point that out because then I'm gonna make some adjustments to the auditor budget and to the landfill budget.
I was gonna say, so then the auditor budget would come down by the,
Right.
the health benefit.
Right.
Kevin?
I agree.
So we'd have to make them motions in the next meeting.
Well, you have to make a motion for me being paid out of there, but as far as this, I'll just update it before we adopt the annual budget.
at the next meeting.
just like I'm doing with all these other changes.
So we need to get that on the agenda as far as-
I would start it now. I wouldn't have done it the way you did it to begin with, but that wasn't my decision. I mean, it makes sense, you're not using tax dollars for the
But the
landfill.
motion will have to be at the next meeting.
The motion would have to be at the next meeting to do benefits at half out of the landfill, half out of here. Right,
That's what we're agreeing on.
yeah, so that would have to go on the agenda, being the motion included no benefits that you had originally made. Other than that, I do have,
Which technically, if we're gonna change Marty's, shouldn't there be a motion at the next meeting to get rid of the foreman's position too?
that depends on when you guys are planning on starting that. Is that gonna be the first of the year, or is that gonna be now? I mean, that's completely a different situation.
No, but that's what
It's gonna need a motion regardless, but
We need a motion to get rid of the foreman's
Yes.
position.
yeah, you will need a motion for that.
And let's put that on the next agenda too.
Anyway, we're gonna purchase a half-ton pickup yet this year. I've got that built into my budget already. And so I built in for 25,000 next year for a 3/4 ton pickup. We'll just buy one off federal surplus. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing. It just needs to be better than what we have, which is not hard to do. But after looking at them, they're usually decent ones with 12 miles is between 25 and 30. 25, we should be able to find something in federal surplus. It's not like we put a whole bunch of miles on, it's just it needs to be reliable, especially out there on the hills and the mud and the everything that we have to go through out there, so. That's what I'm requesting anyway. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Any questions on that?
You don't have a vehicle line item on there?
Equipment,
Yeah, landfill equipment, page 2,
73.
page 73.
Well, one's the wrong way. Never mind.
Does anybody have anything? Thanks, Becky. Anybody else have anything?
I do.
Yes.
I have a question for you, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting, you said that this paperwork would be available the day before the meeting,
Yeah.
and it was not.
I guess if it wasn't, I mean, I might have spoke out of line.
So because you said it would be available and the auditor chose not to make it available, that's okay.
Yes.
The chair does not decide my job duties. I'm an elected official. He doesn't tell me when I have to have this stuff done. He was out of line in stating that.
So if the chairperson were requested that it be done, then you don't have to do that.
As elected officials, we're all on an equal playing level here. So I don't decide when he does what he does. I don't decide when Nyla does what she does. It's all equal level.
So as far as then giving
And
out,
as far as that not being prepared yesterday by 9 o'clock when you stopped in here, because they had me making changes as they walked in this morning. I had changes this morning at 6:30 when I was here working on stuff that Mr. Schilling wanted. If I would have printed it out for you and gave it to you yesterday, it would have been entirely different than what we were looking at today. And this isn't a hearing, it was just a special meeting so that everybody could get on the same page.
so this wasn't a budget hearing?
No.
Although you're discussing the budget?
No.
Mr. Schilling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A budget hearing would have to be published as a hearing, a notice of hearing. We were just simply meeting so everybody could decide what worked best for their offices, and the board had to be the final approval.
So the 2 meetings in July were published as public hearings for the budget?
No, they were not. They were just meetings that we held to discuss our budget. The only hearings are the provisional budget hearing and then adoption of the annual budget, which are the 2 September meetings that are required by statute.
I guess, I also have a problem, I mean, the commissioners didn't receive any of this information till today, I mean, and you're here working with the figures, I mean, I would think this and other pertinent information would be looked at to make a decision. I mean, as a,
Mary?
We had all the information before, these numbers all changed today. So we've had all these numbers in front of us. So I'm not sure what you're coming from, but we've had the numbers, we went through these. Like Becky just said, all these numbers changed, or a lot of these numbers changed today, even this morning. So I don't know what we're gonna look at if we don't, the numbers are gonna change.
well, I guess, I don't work in the courthouse, and I'm not a commissioner, I'm a taxpayer, and I guess my concern is not seeing these numbers, I mean, yes, I realize they change. But as a department head, I guess if I worked in here, I would want to have a copy of what was going on today to see it before the meeting, or at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, at 8 o'clock in the morning before the meeting started at 9, this paperwork, I believe, would have been done.
Ms. Beeben, you are a taxpayer, correct?
Yes, I am.
Are you a department head in this building?
I said I was not.
Are you a county commissioner?
No, I am not.
Are you the county auditor?
No.
If you would like to be, there are ways to run for it, but until then, I don't think that you are in the position to designate who does what when.
I'm not designating who does what and when. I'm just questioning
That is
the
what
fact-
you're complaining about, is who did what when, and that has nothing to do with the commission meeting.
I move to adjourn.
I'm not finished yet. Every time I come into the auditor's office to ask for information, this is what I put up with. As a taxpayer, I'm allowed to come in and ask for information. I do it
You are.
very politely. I'm addressing the chair.
Nothing to do with, that's not on the agenda, that's second that motion.
A motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.